So welcome back.
Come in the middle. Come in the middle.
We have Ivo who will be moderating this session. We probably have one person joining us on Skype. As I was mentioning before, open data opens up a whole new opportunity for every one of us, particularly consumers. By the very nature, government does generate a lot of data sets. These are only increasing as government gets more and more into e-governance, and transactions are happening across. You have transactions relating to demographics, GIS, transportation, traffic, and everything else. We have seen that in countries where data has been made open, the opportunities have grown tremendously, particularly with the new tools that are available for analytics, people are being able to use for decision-making and exploit the potential. And as often happens with open data, there are lots of issues about the veracity of the data, how good it is, issues on privacy. Many government departments would be very concerned, but we have today in our panel many people that Ivo would introduce would be able to do this. The moderator is Ivo, the Minister Ivo Ivanovski. He was on the previous panel as well. But let me just say that having born in Republic of Macedonia, he received his bachelor's degree in computer science from Ohio. He continued his education at the Franklin University. After 11 years in the US, Ivo was appointed by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Macedonia and elected by the Parliament as the Minister for Information and Information Society and Administration. He has had 4 consecutive times that he has been positioned. Latest appointment was in 2014. Congratulations, Ivo, for the contributions you have made. In June 2010, he was invited to serve as the commissioner in the Broadband Commission of the Digital Development of the ITU. He was awarded the ITU Silver Medal for his contribution, and you heard him already about the impact that he has been able to make in that republic. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will talk today about open data and the benefits of open data. And with me, I have 2 speakers who are on stage, and one who is off stage, virtually will connect via Skype. Since we're here for the World Information Society Conference, we should utilize all the tools that the internet provides us these days. To my left is Mr. Bhanu Neupane, who is a program specialist of open access to scientific information and ICT science from UNESCO. And to his left is Mr. Andrew Stott, member of the UK Transparency Board. And on Skype, we have Mr. Zapata, who is from the Mexican government, who will join us. Open data. For many of you that have heard or have not heard about open data is an initiative that was started a while back by the UK government and a few other countries in order to create transparency in the governance of the countries. And the data has to be open in a format which is machine readable, basically to be digitalized, make it in a standard format where the private sector, the citizens, non-government organizations, civil society can create applications, and with those applications, whether they're for mobile devices, smart devices, web services, desktops, they can create a new added value to the society and to the economy. So the transparency is one big part of open data, but also creation of jobs, innovation, and growth of economy is something that we will talk today with our esteemed panelists in order to give you some examples of why opening the data is very important. And opening the data in a manner that not the citizens have to apply for the data to be received. Many countries have that kind of legislation, that data which is not secret, you apply within 15 or 30 days, you will receive it back. This is the data to be open up front, before even any citizens requires that. And which data can be later used and be part of the whole big data system that we're all talking about it today. First, I would like to invite Mr. Andrew Stott from the UK, who has been one of the pioneers of opening data in UK and the world. And I can say because of Mr. Stott that probably the open data initiative would have not been started if it wasn't for him and his colleagues who were visionary early on, and I would like to invite him to share with us of how were the first days and what was all that about. How did that light come on that open data should be open? Stuff.
Thank you. I think that I mustn't claim all the credit for this. I must give a little credit to Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of the United States, who in 1813 made the first reference to what we call open data, or open information. And he wrote in a letter, "He who receives an idea from me receives instruction himself without lessening mine, as he who lights his taper at mine receives light without darkening me." And this is the idea that the economists call that information is non-rivalrous. It doesn't wear out by being used. You can use it again and again. Just because the government have used the data for the purpose for which it was collected, then other people can use that data for other purposes. And there's no harm to the government in that. Indeed, there's a benefit to the country and society and ultimately to the government of doing that. Open data and opening data first came onto my radar in about 2006 when my unit became involved in a discussion about the pricing policy for maps in the UK, for geospatial information. And it wasn't clear how these prices were set, and it wasn't clear that they were set in a way that was most beneficial to the country. And there were complaints about the prices being too high and the conditions being too onerous. And as a result of this, we actually got the UK Ministry of the Economy to commission a series of studies on what the economics of government information were, what the pricing policies should be. And those studies came back and said, actually, for the best benefit to the UK economy, government information should be priced at the marginal cost of distribution. So if it's printed, that's the cost of printing, but not recovering the cost of creating that information, which has already been paid for. And on the internet, the cost of distribution is effectively zero. It's too cheap to try and charge for. And that was the idea of open data coming through. In 2007, we had a project called the Power of Information, which tried to develop some of these ideas about open data, about government's engagement with citizens. And that led in 2008 to a competition public competition we called Show Us a Better Way, for people to actually come up with ideas of which government data they'd like to have and how they would use it to create benefit to the economy or create benefit to society. So it's very much demand-led, thinking of what data you could use and how you could use it, and then getting that data out. And then in 2009, there was a bit of a sort of explosion. It started with Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, giving a TED talk about the new web, as he called it, the next web, which was to be a web of data, and how the foundation of that will be the government reference data, maps, company registers, weather, and so on, which were the key reference data that a lot of the other data in the world depended on, administrative boundaries. And he had the whole audience chanting, "Raw data now, raw data now, raw data now." And you can find that talk on TED, and it's absolutely brilliant, 15 minutes. And next week, he had lunch with Gordon Brown, the British Prime Minister. And Gordon Brown asked him, apparently, what's the one big thing we could do in government IT, Tim? And he said, "Oh, you should just open all your data." So 2 days later, I got a note from the Prime Minister's office saying, Gordon Brown had lunch with Tim Berners-Lee. Gordon Brown said we do something on open data. He's not quite sure what open data is. But can you come up with a project plan to do something in the next 6 months? How much would it cost? How could we use Tim Berners-Lee to help us? What the objectives would be? And there's no hurry about this. if you can get the plan to us by about 6 p.m. today, that will be quite soon enough. So I sat down in the day, wrote the plan for what became data.gov.uk. The Prime Minister accepted the plan, announced it the next week, and the rest is history. Although after 5 years, we've still got a lot to do. This is an ongoing process, and we still call data.gov.uk a beta, because we're learning all the time what data people need, the form in which they need it, and how best to get them engaged.
Thank you. So this is how the Open Government Partnership Initiative was started. Now, since we have on Skype Mrs. Zapata, who is the Director of Public Innovation Office from President of Mexico. Ms. Zapata, you look like you're in a room where there's a lot of data behind you, but it's still not digitalized. Tell us, what is the plan of the Mexican government, since they're co-chairing the Open Government Partnership this year with Indonesia, I believe. What are the plans that the Mexican government will do?
Perfect. Yes, Ivo, as just said, Mexico last week received the chairmanship of the Open Partnership for 2015. And I think it's very important for us, Mexico, and for the embracing open data in our country. Over the last 3 years, the partnership increased from 8 to 65 member countries. And what this means for the president, for OGP, is that an unprecedented amount of people around the world is now increasingly able to participate with their governments in the solution of common problems for all, for governments, for society, for the private sector, for academy, for the common people. And I think this is not my observation to make, and I think this is important for open data because one reason. Just recently, I was reading that by the end of this century, most, if not all, of the world population will be able to access all of the world's data and information right from pocket devices. We will reach for our cell phone, we will reach for our computers, and we will be able to find whatever we want, ever we want it. And this amount of data and these forms to connect people translates into higher expectations of society. Expectations for better education, for example, for better public services, for better health, more freedom and less corruption. And I think that this means that we have in government a great responsibility to foster trust and create sustainable economic development and social well-being. In the view of Mexico and in the view of the President of Mexico and the President's office, technology can amplify the voice of the people. But if we fail to do this, if we fail to amplify and to take into account the voice, then we risk having a government that is disconnected from its citizens. And I think that it is under this light that over the past year, actually we started in last September, to work and develop an open data policy which can make its objectives come true. And we make open data policy one of Mexico's primary objectives as chair of OGP, to strengthen and deepen the partnership between governments and our societies. Not only in Mexico, not only in Latin America, but in the whole world. I think that in the 21st century, we need governments that can be platforms of innovation themselves. And I was just mentioning one thing that is a priority for open data. That is that open data is not only about transparency. Transparency comes with open data, yes, it's an important benefit of open data, but open data can also create economic growth and especially can promote change internally in the governments to create change externally in society. And I think that this is the key from us. We are promoting open data as one of the main inputs for the construction of this, let's call it a robust ecosystem of innovation to strengthen businesses, to create entrepreneurship, and to design better and more efficient public policies for the Mexicans. And I think that also one of the things that later on in the panel will be discussed is trust. And I think that there is no better way for governments to achieve trust from their people than by providing results. And data can achieve just this. Open data is an input that can be used by governments and by society to create joint solution to common problems. And this is the vision of open data that Mexico is implementing in the country for Mexicans And it's the same vision that we are putting forward as chairs of TB for the entire 65 countries.
Thank you, Enrique. We'll get back to you. Please stay online. I would like to go next to UNESCO. I know since open data became a very trendy keyword, UNESCO has started following the countries that have signed Open Government Partnership. Bhanu, can you please share with the audience what are some of the findings that UNESCO has done?
Thank you very much, Excellency. In fact, thanks to people like Andrew, I think we are talking about open data to an extent that it has become. Whether you go to any conferences, any gathering, open data essentially becomes part of the discussion. Or if we evaluate the run-up to Rio +20 meeting in 2012, one of the things that was of a dominant perspective was open data. Everybody said that the countries will not achieve green economy given the fact that they have not opened their data for people's consumption and people's utilization. So the context of big governmental data is now adequately realized in current development discussion. If you look at a Millennium Development Goal right now, one of the findings of the high-level panel that was formed by Secretary General Ban Ki-moon essentially concluded that maybe Millennium Development Goal will not be achieved, or some of them will not be achieved because of a proper concern or consciousness about opening our data. Right now, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or post-2015 goals are being discussed. Out of this, 9 will have one or the other very strong component on big data. But what we are also we have started to realize this big data or government data essentially is an objective maximization exercise. If we look at Sevastopol principle, for example, out of these 8 principles, all of them are not mutually inclusive. Some of them are mutually exclusive. So it becomes very difficult for all of these objectives, such as complete, primary, timely, accessible, machine processable, non-discriminatory, non-proprietary, and license-free. Some of these things to be realized in totality. This becomes very difficult. There is also a policy vacuum. Everyone is talking about big data, but several countries haven't even started thinking about the context of open data within the broader development framework. There is lack of capacity, of course, in all possible sense, and also the cost and benefit of opening up still hasn't been properly realized by the governments. I know that like several private sector has already realized it, and they are already benefiting from it, but the government still are very much apprehensive about opening themselves. But one thing is, we can conclusively say that the knowledge about open data is increasing, and as a result, we are more aware about what is happening where. There is some kind of global scan that has been created on big governmental data. Concern for externalities, what will happen if you open data, that has also started to being realized, like maybe because of, like some debacle like Snowden and so forth. But people have started to say that, if you open everything up, what will happen? The other thing is, but having said that, we also have increased our monitoring capabilities. So it's not only that, we are becoming, concerned, but at the same time, we are essentially to counter these externalities, we are strengthening our monitoring capabilities. And as a result of this, the government are now ready to change. And there is a compelling need on the part of the government that they will change and they will accept this move toward open data.
Thank you.